Yes, I did, Stevie. You have to learn how to enjoy the things in life like athletic. Okay. I'm not too sure Manchester City are enjoying their 25th place in the Champions League standings right now. Their campaign is hanging in the balance. It really has been a poor run of form for them in this competition as well. And it brings it all down to what's going to happen next time out against Club Brugge. Look at the possession here for Manchester City. Yes, we didn't get this wrong. Obviously, PSG coming back from that 2-0 down to defeat Manchester City 4-2. Mark was in Paris for this game. What was it that City got so wrong, Mark?
You know, I think from the first 10 seconds, Nuno Mendes put a tackle in on Phil Foden. It was a really kind of tough tackle. It was. You could see that PSG had the enthusiasm, the kind of desire, and City didn't have it. And City also struggled just to match PSG for effort, for pace. That PSG were pressing so hard, and midfield PSG dominated. So the biggest surprise was when City went 2-0 ahead after, I think, 53.
And so anybody can get at them. That's why they end up with 37% of the ball, because they're not winning it up high, and they're coming back too deep, particularly the middle of the park, and so they're not affecting the game. So they're stuck betwixt and between. That's exactly where they are right now, and nobody knows how to fix it, including Pep.
But even when they get too deep, if they were organized when they're too deep, then they would be hard to break down. But they may be sitting deep, but they're not organized. They're all over the place. And I think what's more concerning, because I agree with you, this is a team that is neither here nor there when it comes to what they do defensively. But beyond that, they're up 2-0. And you're thinking Manchester City, in this sort of moment, would be able to, at the very least, possess the ball. Complete 5- and 10-yard passes. And they were not able to do that. And that had been, at least in the history of Manchester City under Pep Guardiola, second nature to them. But in order to have those sustained periods of possession, not only do you need the legs to move around in the midfield, but you also need players that will show for the ball. And what was noticeable to me in watching Manchester City play yesterday is that when the momentum started to shift and it was time for players to actually show some personality, we're going to possess the ball, we're going to keep the ball, not only are they not able to move, some of them were unwilling to move. And it happens when you don't have any confidence as a group. Now all of a sudden you don't quite peel off of the shoulder of the defender, you don't find the penetrating pass, you don't split lines with your passes. It all becomes very conservative, and we don't know exactly how we're going to keep this ball. Eventually you turn the ball over, eventually if PSG goes in transition, eventually you're in trouble. To see Manchester City, under Pep Guardiola, struggle to keep the ball. As much as they have struggled this season, that is perhaps the most surprising thing to see.
OK, let's talk about Erling Haaland, Mark, because we were reading your takeaways this morning for ESPN. And you said he needs to do more, particularly given the fact that he's just signed this big contract. Can you elaborate?
Well, he didn't do anything apart from score a tap-in. And, you know, he is there to score goals, and he's done that throughout his career, but he really doesn't offer enough when his team isn't playing well. He doesn't hold the ball up, he doesn't make the runs, he doesn't bring people in. He just basically is a goal scorer, and, you know, if he's not scoring goals, he needs to deliver more. And obviously City have given him this massive contract for many reasons, you know, not just for his goal-scoring ability, but obviously the signal it sends out that they've got the best goal scorer in the world on the books, and it's almost like saying, if the worst comes to the worst with 115 charges, we've got Erling Haaland. But, you know, you watch strikers like Robert Lewandowski, Harry Kane, you watch Mo Salah. Erling Haaland does nothing what they do. He just basically plays on the last shoulder of the defender and hopes for a ball over the top, and it's not coming. So he needs to add something more to his game to stretch the defenders more, to bring his teammates in. He just isn't doing enough, and I think teams have worked him out a little bit. They realise what he's good at and what he's not good at, and what he's not good at is having the ball with his back to goal.
Hoggy, I think you're backing up the wrong tree here, mate. Seriously. I mean, you're talking about him not holding the ball up, not getting in behind. They had 37% of the ball. We've just sat here and talked about how they can't keep the ball. What chance has a centre forward got? If you're going to have a go at anybody in this team, he's the last guy. If you want to have a go at the back four, have a go. And how about we have a go at the goalkeeper? I've never heard anybody criticising Edison. I've never heard him say a word about Ederson. He's never made a save. And then he's standing, hasn't made a save. You got a back line of Akanji and Stones. Stones came in. You play Núñez at right back. I mean, he absolutely had no idea what day of the week it was. It was almost like he'd never played football before. You've got the middle of the park who don't close anybody down, who stand off too deep. I mean, seriously, you can't turn around and have a go at Haaland. I mean, look, he's played 7 games. Listen, got 6 goals.
I think he's still.
If there was one player on that team, if there's one player on that team, Ogden, that's done the job in the Premier League this year and in Champions League, it's Haaland. He's got 6 goals and 7 in the Champions League.
But look at when he scored those goals.
He's got 17 and 22.
Most of those at the start of the season.
Come on, you can't be.
Most of those at the start of the season.
Last guy.
Most of those were early in the season. Look, listen, he's set incredibly high standards. We know that, but I still think when you watch him play, he doesn't do enough. He hasn't added to his game enough since he's been at Man City. He's not the all-round centre forward that he needs to be. And obviously, if he gets the service, he scores goals. So it is down to the service he gets. But he could do more. He could go and look for the goal. He could try a little bit. Not try hard. I think he's trying. But I just think that there's not enough to his game. That there should be more to him. If he's rated as the best striker in the world and the best, the 10-year contract, you need to do more.
Okay.
I just want to go fight,
a football player. You always want to add strings to your bow. We can't question his goals. Yes, we always want to hold the ball up better. We always want to get involved. We always want to defend and help out. We always want to do all of these things. But at the end of the day, when you're playing in a team that can't keep the ball a pass, give each other a decent pass, this is not the time to be pulling out Erling Haaland. It's just not.
Yeah, what I would say, and I understand the point that Mark is making, and the larger point that Mark is making, but I also think there is a case to be made that Manchester City, and we have talked about this and discussed it many a times, the core group of players of Manchester City are not able to recognize how to exploit and utilize the skill set of Erling Haaland. If indeed this is a player, and this is something that Mark just mentioned, this is a player that is looking to run in behind, play him the ball in behind. Play him the ball in behind. As a striker, when you make a run and the ball doesn't come, and you make another run and the ball doesn't come, and you make a third run and that ball didn't come, you know what happens the 4th time? You don't make the run. You don't. I'm not making runs if you're not playing me the ball. Feed me. Feed the bear. Put it out there, and I'll make something happen. So it's not just a combination. It's not just Erling Haaland. It's a combination of the two things. That while he may be making the runs, these players decide to play the ball sideways and back. They don't play the penetrating pass. They don't play the ball over the top. They don't exploit his assets as a player, his skill set as a player. And then Erling Haaland says, you know what? I'm not making that running behind anymore. And because I don't have hold-up play with my back to goal, then things become a whole lot more limited in terms of what I can do. So it's not just Erling Haaland. It's everybody.
Well, obviously, new blood coming in at Manchester City now, Mark. We've seen that Omar Mahrez has signed for them. We knew that was going to happen. What's he going to bring this City? Is he going to solve some of their problems?
Well, it helps Haaland. He might make it a little bit easier for Haaland to get more goals. I kind of said I think most of his goals came at the start of the season, so he has dried up a little bit. But I think he does what Julian Alvarez did. I think he just kind of gives City a different option, takes a marker away from Haaland maybe. Just something that they haven't had. They've been very over-reliant on Haaland this year because they were very thin up front, but obviously stayed fit. I think he played every game, nearly every minute of the game. So he's really, really run his race this year, Haaland. He needs a rest, he needs a break, and Marmoush gives him that. Just give him the chance to vary the tactics, take the heat off Haaland a little bit. We don't know if he's going to be the guy that maybe he won't be as good as Alvarez, but he's done well in the Bundesliga this season. So, but he may be a gamble at £60 million, but he's been brought in to score some goals and take the pressure off Haaland.
Can he help rescue the season, LA?
Somebody's got to get him the ball.
Well, yes, I think he can help him, but there's got to be an adjustment here from Pep Guardiola and the willingness to have a player in Marmoush that is actually playing around Erling Haaland, that is a second striker, if you will, that they can play off of each other. Whenever the chances came, he was putting those chances away in all sorts of different facets. It's not just a guy that gives you one type of goal. There is variety to the sort of goal that he's been able to score. All of that, I think, would help Manchester City. And more importantly, I think it would help Erling Haaland if they're able to play off each other. But that's a decision that Pep Guardiola is going to have to make. Can I play with 2 strikers? Well, why not? Why not? Everything else that, whatever is it that you've tried, it hasn't quite worked. You keep sticking to the things that you've done in the past. That hasn't worked. If you bring this guy in, then allow him to play around Erling Haaland. I think both of them become better because of it.
Another player you mentioned, Mark, when we've been talking about players on their way out, is Kyle Walker signing for Milan. Is this the right time to let Kyle Walker leave? Is his absence going to be felt in this side?
Well, Pep made it clear that Walker wanted to go and he was not standing in his way. So I think Kyle Walker's had a difficult season. I think he's lost a bit of pace this year and he's struggled. So I think it probably is the right time to let him go. And it's an interesting deal because the deal is a loan deal with an option to buy. So Milan don't have to sign him, which is nowadays it's usually an obligation to buy. So Kyle Walker could be back at the Etihad in the summer because if he doesn't perform for Milan, then they'll send him back. So it's an interesting one. But yeah, Walker's not the player he was, and I think City decided that if you don't want to be there, just cut your losses and let him move.
Well, he's not the player that he was, but he's better than Mateus Nunes playing right back, for goodness sakes.
Yeah, I mean, there's one thing to be nice and let somebody go, but there's another thing, particularly when you're in the middle of what you're going through now at City, to make it harder for yourself. That makes no sense to me. Why they let that happen right now, I'm befuddled. I don't get it.
Befuddled, lovely word.
Completely.
City will be back in action in the Premier League. Obviously, that's coming up, their game against Chelsea. A look at where they are right now in the top 5 as it stands. And so it's a big game this weekend. It's coming up on Saturday. Let's take a look at the predictions from the panel. Mark, you say that Chelsea are going to win this one. Stevie, you've gone for a draw, and Ale and I have both gone for a win. Same as well. Didn't even discuss that. Mark, why do you think Chelsea are going to win?
I just think that City had a really tough game in Paris on Wednesday night. Pep really can't make a lot of changes, and Chelsea had a week off. And Chelsea got a lot of legs, got a lot of energy. I think Cole Palmer's always got a goal in him. So I just think it's the circumstances that City are going to go into this game. They're going to be a bit leggy. They're going to find it hard. And they've got a massive game next week against Bruges in the Champions League. So this could be a game where they take their eye off the ball a little bit because they have a bigger game next week. But it's a big game, obviously. But Wednesday night took a lot out of them. It was a tough game in Paris. And like I said, a lot of those players will play again at the weekend. So I think Chelsea will have too much from fitness-wise.
You've gone for the opposite result.
I could have picked Chelsea just the same as I did Manchester City and still not feel very confident or comfortable about it. What I expect is a chaotic game. I expect it to be open. I expect it to be disorganized. I expect it to be back and forth. Neither one of these teams you can say, well, they're very cagey defensively. That's not quite the case. And in a chaotic game, I think there's a possibility that maybe Mark's boy, Erling Haaland, is able to get on a run and maybe scores a couple of goals.
He better, hey, Mark.
And if he does, then why not? Then why not a win? This is not a dominant win from Manchester City. They just sort of run into a win and hang on in the end. 3-2 Manchester City, could be 3-2 Chelsea. I'm going to take Manchester City.
You're 2-2.
Well, I've gone for the draw because I agree with Augie that City will be a bit leggy after the PSG game. But Chelsea recently, from good positions, have fallen asleep. And if you fall asleep at City, then they'll punish you. So that's why I've gone for the 2-2 draw.
OK.